firsthand kind of rivalries that there are in college football, Alabama, Auburn. Do you think Coach Spurrier had as big an impact on anybody on taking this Clemson-South Carolina rivalry and taking it to another level?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I'm not. This isn't a negative to South Carolina. I mean, it's just a reality. South Carolina's program. I mean, all you got to do is just look at the history and the facts. I mean, they only had like one 10-win season in 100-something years before Coach Spurrier. And so, this game nationally was not that big a deal. And that people would ask me all the time, what's the difference between Alabama, Auburn, and the Clemson, South Carolina? And I'm like, well, not a lot. Everybody, they hate each other. It's, the biggest difference is they're not in the same conference. And, Alabama, Auburn, same conference, same division. But Alabama, Auburn nationally always had bigger implications. But the rivalry part, shoot, I mean, it's the same to me. It's very, very much the same. And but with what Coach Spurrier did at South Carolina, I mean, I guess I'm the fortunate one to be at Clemson during the greatest run in the history of the school. But he took them to, like I said, to a level that they've never been. And so, I mean, how many top 10 matchups have you had in Clemson, South Carolina game? Clemson historically has always been, the better team, if you will, historically. And there's been some runs either way along the way, but pretty much heavy Clemson, and even from a ranking standpoint. And so to have the games that we've had, top 10 matchup, whatever that was a couple years ago, was that the first time ever?
Yeah, 2013.
First time ever to have, and so now all of a sudden the national implications of that game changed drastically, and then certainly with the personality of Coach Spurrier and the success that he's had in his career, I don't think there's any question it brought a much more of a national audience to this rivalry, and now people, I think, are much more aware of it.
What did winning that game in 2008 when you were the interim and you beat South Carolina, the team beat South Carolina, and Steve Spurrier, the head coach, what did that do for your career?
I mean, it kept me at Clemson. I mean, it's just really that simple. I have no idea where I'd be. I'd be somewhere, like I said, but it kept. I mean, I don't know that I probably wouldn't have got the job, but it kept me at Clemson, and just kind of made it hard. I think Terry Don, was hoping that I could get the job, but it made it easy for them to give me a chance. It made it hard for them not to give me an opportunity at that point. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd have gotten the job. Probably wouldn't have. So, but again, I didn't feel pressure in that game or anything like that. I had a total peace. That again, I mean, regardless of whether I got the job or not, I had a total piece of what we've been able to do with that team and with those young men on that team, and I knew that if the door closed here, that the good Lord was going to open up one somewhere else, and so I wasn't anxious or anything like that, but it worked out.
You've been in that seat before, so what are the primary challenges that face an interim coach when he takes over, say, midseason?
Oh man, there's a lot of challenges because you go from wearing one hat to now you're wearing about 30 hats, and it's just really hard to prepare for that. And maybe I don't know, but I mean I had no inclination at all, zero, until Tommy Bowden walks in the staff room and says, "Hey, I'm stepping aside here," and the AD walks in and says, "You're the head coach," and see me in 5 minutes. I mean, I didn't have a clue, and so maybe I don't know. Maybe this has been coming up. Maybe they've been talking about this. Maybe Sean has been able to kind of think about it for a few days or a week. I have no idea, but it's just a huge transition. It's very difficult because first of all, you got a lot of emotion involved. I mean, there's a ton of emotion. I mean, you've got a lot of factions. There's different groups, and you got a whole football team that did not come there for you to be their head coach. and yet, you got to push all that aside, and you got to get everybody to understand that it's it's bigger than any one person. And at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to, regardless of what the scoreboard is, you have an opportunity to send a message, that you're not going to quit, that you're gonna stand up and compete and do what's best for your school and your program. Those seniors, they deserve an opportunity to have the best chance to finish as strong as possible. And if you're a senior, you got to get that group to not check out. That group's got to stay engaged. And then you got to try to create some positivity and some energy and try to rally the troops. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and it's a very difficult thing to do. Again, you got a whole staff that you go from one of them to now the leader of them, and there's a lot of dynamics involved there. But it's tough. It's tough. It really is.
There are always extenuating circumstances, but just the notion, Coach Bowden did it, Coach Spurrier did it, of walking away in the middle of the season after you've been preaching, don't quit during game, give it your best every time you go out, play hard, coach hard, and yet, oh, and by the way, I'll see you down the road. I mean, there's that side of it too. I mean, we shouldn't gloss that over.
Yeah, well, I think that people are going to have their opinions, and everybody's entitled to their opinion on whatever they think. But at the end of the day, everybody has to make their own decisions and live with that decision and do what you think is right in the moment. And sometimes what you think is right, other people vehemently think is wrong. So that just kind of comes with the territory. But I'm not going to sit here and try to put myself in those shoes and judge Coach Spurrier or anything like that. He's got a long legacy, and he's 70 years old. I'm gonna have to coach till 71 so I can one up him. I got a long way to go, man. So I don't have any anything else to regard to that. I mean, people are going to have their opinions one way or another, regardless of what he would have done.
Dabo, I know you kind of alluded to it, the back and forth that you and Spurrier sometimes had. Was that always kind of still a mutual respect between you two, building up the rivalry, answering each other? Was there, or did it get a little tense there in the heat of the rivalry? There
were probably some tense times. I mean, it's one of those things that I just never really been a part of that. But again, that's just kind of who he is. He's just kind of been that way his whole career, and you never know what he's going to say. He'd say something like, "I can't believe he said that," and then I'd make a comment back, and it just. But then he, and I think I mentioned this, but he'd always be the first one. He would call me from time to time and reach out, and he's reached out a couple times to offer me a little bit of encouragement. He called me a couple years ago when we got beat down there in Columbia and just dominated the game and somehow lose the game, and that he called me after that game. That's exactly what he said. He said, "Man, y'all just kicked our butt. Just couldn't hang on the football." And then he called me after the Georgia game last year. And just. So I mean, listen, he's always there's that side of him. I think a persona that people see, and he is who he is. And sometimes he probably says things that like all of us, that maybe you wish you hadn't said, or maybe said in a different way. And it never to a point where I don't have respect for him or vice versa.
As a fan, is there one quote or Spurrierism that really stands out to you that he's had over the years?
Oh man, he's had a bunch of them. Again, I go way back. All my years as recruiting at Alabama against Coach Spurrier, the head coach at Florida, when they were rolling. It was always a very difficult challenge, but I mean, he's had a ton of them. You know, you can name it, all the different schools. But probably the funniest one to me is I went up to ESPN. I think I was at ESPN, or maybe in ACC Media Days. I don't remember. But somebody asked me, you know, where they were asking me about me and Coach Spurrier, and I you know, and again, I say what's on my mind. I don't, you know, I never really know what's going to pop into my head. But I just said, you know what, we get along, we're fine, we're just different. You know, I mean, he's from Mars, I'm from Pluto, and I said, you know, we're just different in ways, and it was just a really, I mean, easy comment. It wasn't anything. And the next thing I know, it's all over ESPN that he's from Mars and I'm from Pluto and all this stuff. And then he comes back and he says, I don't think Dabo knows that Pluto ain't a planet anymore. And so I'm like, well, dadgum, it was a planet when I was in Alabama. I missed that news flash somewhere along the way. And then lo and behold, we finally beat them suckers last year, and guess what has happened? Pluto has made a comeback. Pluto is now a planet once again. And so, I mean, it's unbelievable. It was in the USA Today. I told Tim, I said, Tim, look at this. Pluto is a planet. So, you know, he's just, you know, one of the best when it comes to, I guess, picking up on things that maybe somebody says and having some fun with it. But again, he's one of those guys that has always said what's on his mind. But I think he's always tried to do things the right way. You know, I've never known him as a cheater. You know, all the way back to Florida, I always felt like Coach Spurrier tried to do things the right way.